So thanks to Ralph for that very kind introduction. It's always interesting to hear your life kind of read out. So good morning. I just have to say I'm really honored to be here at this critical moment for housing policy. And congrats on the 34th Summit. I think that's amazing. And of course, Barbara Goldberg-Goldman, who I've known for years, I have to say your passion and what you spoke about in terms of this incredible tsunami landscape that we find ourselves in. It also makes me every day literally get on my knees and just say, what can I do to stop it, and how can I make positive steps forward? And also thanks to Tiffany and to, of course, Mark Ehrlich, who I know, Elrich, who I know is going to be very illuminating on this too. So I really believe in your mission of affordable, decent, and safe housing, and that it is an unalienable right for every person in our country. And over the past 30 years, I have worked across law and government and nonprofit to see common sense, common ground solutions and create opportunity. For most of you who followed, if any of you followed my campaign, I ran on common sense, common ground, and I have to say I'm desperately trying to find it in this administration. And I've come to realize that common ground really only happens when you have shared truths and you also have shared value outputs. So you have to really start with the same facts and the same prism of what you want to look at, and then also where you're going to go at the end. And that has been something that has really been difficult for me in this administration. I did at the Department of Commerce lead broadband and expand digital access and modernize communications because access, whether it's the internet or safe housing, is really a foundation for equity. In Congress, as I said, I have really tried to do common ground solutions to help my constituents, and I do serve. I'm going to talk about housing, but since Barbara lifted this up, I think it would be hard for me not to address the elephant in the room. I serve on the House Ag and the Science, Space, and Technology committees. I represent 35,000 government workers, including those at NIST and NIH and the National Institute of Cancer, and our firefighters, and Fort Detrick, and the rifts and the policy freezes that are happening. The funding freezes, it's an incredible time to be there. And we've had now over 70,000 of my constituents, almost a fourfold increase, have reached out for assistance. And we've been trying to meet them, and we are. I have an amazing district office in Frederick, but and of course we are here for everyone in all 5 of my counties that go all the way to Garrett. But to be here at this time, I think that is the one thing I can do, is to actually listen to my constituents, be there, show up everywhere, and have our office open to help, whether it be in, the Social Security check, or, the HUD funds that are frozen, or the rifts that are happening. Because it is nonsensical, it's cruel, and it's penny foolish and pound foolish, and it's impacting the health and well-being of our country, our U.S. competitiveness, and our national security. And I sing it from the housetops every single day. And to Barbara's point, each and every one of you in this room, whether it's on housing, whether it's on core programs and services, you need to be an ambassador on those issues to your friends, to your neighbors. But most importantly, we need 4 members of the GOP to cross the line and to say, stop, T. We have to stop this. And we are 215. We keep voting in a block, and they'll come with 217 or 218 every time and override us. And the last thing I'll say is on the Department of Ag, we are really trying to get a farm bill over. It hasn't been reauthorized since 2019. I'm trying to get the provisions in there for the farmers, the crop insurance, dealing with some of the commodities issues, dealing with rural issues in Western Maryland. And all they can care about is getting their $230 billion of cuts for this tax decrease, not doing the hard work on the farm bill. And it looks like SNAP. SNAP, our nutritional funding, because we talk about housing, but we also have to have kids eat. And the problem is that 1 in 9 families in my district depend on SNAP, and half of them are children. And they talk about working, but these people have to work. Children go to school. And I agree with Barbara, and I think you agree, no child in this country should ever go hungry. I mean, without a doubt. And no one should go hungry. But this is, to me, it is unbelievable. So I did go off a little bit on a tangent. I did. But it's really important to call Andy Harris, to call all of those West Virginia constituents who, across the border, and to make that point. I will, okay, so I'll start in. So my GOP colleagues yesterday nonsensically brought to the floor to rename the Gulf of Mexico. Meanwhile, I introduced bipartisan legislation to expand the Family Medical Leave Act for family and caregivers of veterans and injured service workers, because I have a lot of veterans. And I just do what I can every day to move a little bit forward and fight. But today, I'm just going to focus on the issue that touches you all and every American, from economic security to workforce development, and that's the affordable housing crisis. And as you know, in Maryland, we have over 100,000, we face a shortage of over 100,000 housing units. And more than half of Maryland renters are cost burdened, meaning that they spend more than 30% of their income on housing, and sometimes much, much more. And as we all know, it's a public health challenge, an economic barrier, and a question of human dignity. But it's not just happening in Montgomery County. As I said, it's happening in rural America, in Western Maryland, where, if you can believe it, it's even a worse problem than it is here, because there's not as many affordable and good-paying jobs. And the housing supply is very tight there, and costs are up. In my role in Congress, I've started to advocate for robust investments in critical housing programs like the single-family housing direct home loans, the mutual self-help housing loans program, and the home investment partnerships program, and more, and expansions on that. Now, with these senseless freezes, it is a really hard time, but I still think you have to advocate and talk and lift up. We do need smart, bold investments and political courage. And one key lever that we do on a state level, Mark and Jessica, and I think of all of our county executives, we have to give communities the resources, data, and technical assistance they need to modernize outdated zoning codes. And these changes won't happen overnight, but they are necessary to reshape housing opportunity in this country. And they are making some pretty interesting moves in Frederick County. But even as we work on long-term solutions, we are facing these immediate threats. President Trump's latest budget proposal calls for cutting federal housing assistance by 43%. Over $26 billion to cuts in programs like Section 8 vouchers, housing for seniors, and people with disabilities. How cruel. And public housing maintenance. We do need to expand the low-income housing tax credit, and we do need to preserve the affordable units and build new ones. And that is why I support the Affordable Housing Tax Credit Improvement Act. And it will expand low-income housing tax credit and provide private investment in the development. But I have to say, as we further and we invest and we uplift these, that means that we actually have to also turn the House in 26, or else deal with some of these GOP members so that we can actually get some of this legislation through. But I believe you do it, you lift it up, you educate, you talk to your colleagues in every forum, and you really just push. My husband, John, when he was in the seat over 7 years ago, was a big proponent of and had a bill about that we have underfunded the Housing Trust Fund. And that's, these block grants to the state and federal government, state and localities. And I think that this is something we also need to really dig deep in when you look at Freddie and Fannie Mac and really think about ways that we can be creative about that. And I would just love to continue the dialogue with you all because there is this intermeshing, of course, of federal legislation and our state and local. So in closing, I'm just going to say I'm with you in the fight, but we have to listen to you all because you are all on the ground, housing advocates, developers, local government officials, local governments, but most importantly to the families that are impacted by these policies. And that's why convening and this 34th Summit is so very, very important. And I have my staff that's going to stay on and really listen and hear the concerns and policies that are being articulated. In closing, I'll just say, housing is not just a policy issue. It's the face of all of the people who live inside. It's a moral one. It's about who we are and who we want to be. And for me, I believe that when we invest in housing, we invest in people and in the future of our country. And so just thank you all for carving out your time to be here on a Friday, because it's local communities that actually coming together that make the difference. And I'm proud to stand with you in this fight and to work against this heartless and unpredictable political and economic landscape that I find myself every day. But I'm going to continue to focus on inflation and good-paying jobs and affordability and not the Gulf of America, and find a way that each person can find a place and each family can find a place to call home. So thank you for what you do, and I am so looking forward to meeting many of you and continuing the dialogue. My best.